Hello, my bookish friends. I want to share with you today 24 books I want to read in the year 2024. So these are all backlist titles. I'm not going to have any new releases. Well, I guess that's a lie. I do have two that came out just in the first week of January that I'm going to include. But other than that, none of these are going to be ones that are coming out later in the year. These are all backlist titles that have been sitting on my shelves that I really want to get to. So I have 12 horror books and 12 thriller books, and each of them have 3 YA books to go with them. So let's go ahead and get started and see what these books are. I'm going to start with horror, and I'm going to start with the YA. The first one is The Lighthouse by Alex Bell. And this one I want to read because I read Frozen Charlotte and Charlotte Says last year, and I absolutely loved it. I loved her writing style. I loved the story. I thought it was fantastic. So I really wanted to read something else by this author. So this one, I don't really know what it's about. So it sounds like it's about these siblings that go to stay at this lighthouse that's like their uncles or something, but it may or may not be haunted. So I love a good haunted house story. So this one sounds right up my alley, and I just love this cover. Next, we have The Weight of Blood by Tiffany T. Jackson. I read White Smoke by this author, and I thought it was really good. And I've heard nothing but amazing things about this. I haven't read it yet because it was a Carrie retelling, and honestly, I'm not a huge fan of Carrie by Stephen King. I thought it was okay. But I hear this one's really, really good, so I definitely want to give this a chance. And this is about a girl who's half black and half white, but she can pass for white, and so everybody in her school thought she was white. But then when they find out that she's not, then they start kind of bullying her like they did in Carrie. Next, I'm going to do These Fleeting Shadows by Kate Alice Marshall. This is another haunted house book, and I read an adult thriller by this author, and I really enjoyed it, so I'm looking forward to see what her YA horror is all about. And again, I just love this cover. It's got such pretty colors, and I love books with houses on it. I'm just a sucker for that. Next, we have The Ghost Tree by Christina Henry, and I really love Christina Henry's writing. I read Horseman and Near the Bone, and I really liked both of those, and so I'm excited to read something else by her. I don't really know what this book is about. I keep reading the premise, and then it just like leaves my brain, but I'm okay with going in blind and just seeing what it's about for myself. And then I really, really need to read something by Adam Neville, because I have a few of his books and I have not read any of them, and I hear such amazing things about him. So I'm going to try and get to No One Gets Out Alive. And this one is like super big, so I've been putting it off. It's like over 600 pages, but it's probably one of his most famous ones, and I hear it's amazing. I did watch the movie and I didn't really care for it, but I hear the book is way better. So even though I already know what it's about now because I saw the movie, so I kind of wish I didn't. But even though I know what's going on, I still want to read this one. Then I have The House on Foster Hill, and I just recently hauled a few of this author's books. This is the debut, and I didn't know she had other books out. And when I read the premises, they all sound amazing. But I want to start with the debut novel because it's probably the weakest one, to be honest. And I don't want to get to it and then be disappointed because I read better ones. So I want to start with this one so that I can get on to the other ones, if that makes sense. And again, I love this cover, and this one does sound really good and interesting. And again, I think it's like a haunted house gothic tale. And then I want to get to Monstrilio this year. I bought this last year and just haven't gotten around to it. This is a literary horror, which made me a little bit nervous to read it, but I hear it's amazing. It sounds really interesting. So this is a grief horror novel about a woman who lost her child, and then she takes a portion of his lung and it like grows into this little monster. So that sounds really interesting. I really like Mad Scientist or like Frankenstein or like body snatching, all that kind of stuff. So it kind of seems like it's going to have those type of vibes, which I really enjoy. So I'm excited to get to this one. And then I have Nestlings by Nat Cassidy. I haven't read Mary, so this will be my first one by this author, but I hear amazing things about it. And I've kind of been holding off because I kind of want to read it in May for Mother's Day because it has to do with motherhood and children and the difficulties it can be being a parent and all of that. This is also a vampire novel, And so I think that would be interesting because it sounds like it's going to be more like the old school vampires, not like, Twilight vampires or whatever, which I don't mind. I like Twilight, but I prefer the old time scary vampires. Then we have the Nightmare Man, and this one, I just love this cover. It's got this creepy like scarecrow on it, and it sounds like it's going to be a little bit of a detective story, I think, but with supernatural elements. So it sounds really good, and I'm excited to read it. Then we have Black Sheep by Rachel Harrison, and I'm so disappointed with myself that I didn't get to this one last year because I love Rachel Harrison. But this is also like a religious book, so that kind of threw me off. Religious horror is not always my thing. So I was a little bit hesitant to read this one, but at the same time, I just love the author and I love her work. So I definitely want to get to this one this year. Then we have The Reformatory by Tananarive Due. And this one kind of intimidates me because, again, it's like huge. It's almost 600 pages, which can be a little bit intimidating for me. But I hear amazing things, and I love this cover, and I love the premise. It's about these Black boys living up in the Jim Crow South, and they go to this reformatory to become better members of society or whatever, and they're treated not very well. And it kind of gives me like Boys in the Valley vibes, which I'm reading right now and really enjoying. And then the last horror book that I want to get to this year is What Kind of Mother by Clay Malloy Chapman. And this author is very interesting because I like his books, but I never like fall head over heels for them. Like I really enjoyed Whisper Down the Lane, but then the ending I wasn't really sure about. And then Ghost Eaters I really did enjoy, but at the same time it wasn't like a favorite. So I'm hesitantly excited to read this one. I love the cover and I'm excited to see what it's about. So I'm guessing this is, again, to like Nestlings, where it's going to have to do with motherhood and the ups and downs of being a mother and having children that rely on us and all of that. So another one that I could probably pick up in May. Okay, now we're going to move on to the thrillers, again starting with the 3YA. And the first one I just picked up at the beginning of January, and this is That's Not My Name. This is about a girl who was seemingly kidnapped but then recovered, and she doesn't have any memories about how she got there. And so her dad that picked her up from the police station saying, oh, this is my daughter, I'm so glad you found her. She's like, I don't know, that name he's calling me, that doesn't sound familiar to me at all. And so I kind of get the sneaky suspicion that the dad is really the kidnapper, or maybe that's what you're supposed to think and it's something else. But either way, it sounds interesting and intriguing, and I can't wait to read it. Then we have 4 Found Dead by Natalie Richards. I read 5 Perfect Strangers last year. Is that what it's called? 5 Perfect Strangers? I don't know. I read whatever the book that came out that was snowy, something about strangers. But anyways, so this is another one by the same author that I wanted to try out. And this sounds like it's going to be more of a slasher, and it takes place in a movie theater, but they get stuck inside this theater with the doors being locked and they're trying to get out. So it sounds like it could be a fun time. Then we have None Shall Sleep. And this one I've heard described as like the Hannibal Lecter series, but YA version, where you have this serial killer that's very manipulative but very suave, and these teenage kids are somehow part of the detective team. I'm not really sure how. Kind of reminds me of The Naturals in that way, which I really enjoyed and really liked. So I'm hoping that I'm going to like this one just as much as I loved that series. Now, a lot of people are probably going to be upset by the next 2 because I'm probably the last person on the planet that haven't read these yet. I just haven't gotten to them, and I really have been wanting to. So hopefully this is the year that I finally read these books. So the first one is Local Woman Missing by Mary Kubica. And I kind of just want to go into this blind. I don't know anything about it other than there's a woman that goes missing and they're trying to find her. But I hear it's amazing. It has really good twist in it. So I'm excited to finally get to this one. And the other one is You. So I have held off watching the show because I don't want to be spoiled. I want to read the book first. But yes, I have not read You yet. So I really need to get to this because I hear such amazing things about it and people seem obsessed with it. So I really want to get to it. And this is a stalker story. There's like a woman that works at a bookstore or something, and this guy comes in and trying to like date her, but really he's a stalker. So It just sounds really fun and really interesting, and I can't wait to get to this one, hopefully. This is the other one that I just recently purchased at the beginning of January, and this is The Heiress by Rachel Hawkins. And I really enjoy Rachel Hawkins. I didn't really like The Reckless Girls, but I've liked everything else I've read by her, and I hear that this one's really good. So this one apparently has Evelyn Hugo vibes. I have not read that book, but basically there's this widow who's had 4 different husbands and they've all died, and she's gotten away with it, but it seems a little bit suspicious. And she has an adopted son that wants nothing to do with her. But when she passes away, he doesn't want her house, he doesn't want her money or anything like that. But then circumstances happen that forces him to move back home. Next is Delicate Conditions by Daniela Vega. Oh, sorry, Danielle Valentine. That's her other pen name. But anyways, I read a book by her this last year called How to Survive Your Murder, and I really enjoyed it and I really liked it. So I really wanted to read something else by this author. I'm a little bit nervous because again, it's like super big, but it sounds really good. I hear it's really good. Again, it's about motherhood and having kids and all that, which I know is not everybody's cup of tea, but because I'm a mother myself, I find it really relatable to read books like this, so I'm excited to get to it. Then we have The Nothing Man by Catherine Ryan Howard. And this author, I don't know. This is like the tiebreaker, I guess, because I read Runtime by her and I didn't really like it. But then I read The Trap and I really liked it a lot. And I hear that The Nothing Man is very similar to that book, and it's actually referenced in that book. So I really want to read this one because I personally really liked The Trap. So I'm excited to read another book about a serial killer, cat and mouse game, and all of that stuff. So then we have Looking Glass Sound by Catriona Ward. And this is another book like Black Sheep that I'm just really surprised I didn't get to last year because it was one of my most anticipated reads. And I was so excited for it, but for whatever reason, I just never got to it. So I'm hoping to rectify that this year. I don't know if I want to hold off for summer, but it definitely looks like it has summery vibes. I want to read another Kate Alice Marshall book called What Lies in the Woods. I read her other adult novel just the last month, or this month actually. I read it this month and I actually really enjoyed it, and I thought the writing style was really good. And I hear that this book is actually really good, although not a lot of people liked the ending, so we'll see how I feel about it. Then we have The Quiet Tenant, and this is kind of like The Trap and The Nothing Man. So it's about a serial killer that kidnaps women, but then people are trying to figure out who he is. So this one, I hear it's like Notes on an Execution. I haven't read that one yet, but it's like the same premise where you have this serial killer, but the book is from the point of view of like the women in his life. So like his mom and his girlfriend or something, and then like the girl that he kidnapped. Or no, this one I think is the daughter. Sorry, it's like his mom, his daughter, and then the woman he kidnapped or something like that. So basically, he's forced to move, and so he was going to kill the woman that he kidnapped, but she begs him not to. So he decides to take her with him. But because he moves, like it's kind of harder to keep his secret about what he's doing, and his daughter's living with him now or something. So it sounds like it should be pretty tense, pretty interesting, pretty fast paced. So I'm excited to read this one. And then we have The Drowning Woman by Robin Harding. And I'll admit I was drawn to this one because of the cover. The cover is just amazing. But I've only read one other book by this author and I didn't like it at all. But I have high hopes for this one. I do hear it's good. I actually read the first chapter and it was very, very intriguing, and I definitely want to read this one soon. So those are the 24 books I want to read in the year 2024. Although I do have a few honorable mentions that I want to get to. These ones are not thriller or horror. But before I get into the honorable mentions, I just want to say, if you like this video, please consider pushing the like button. And if you want to leave me a comment, it would really help me out. If you don't like leaving comments, you can just leave me an emoji, maybe like a book emoji or something. So I have 3 science fiction ones. So the first 2 was like sci-fi horror. So this is Ship of Fools. I think there's some kind of like religious cult or something, and it's about a generational ship. So the Earth is like uninhabitable, and so these people go on the spaceship, and they've been in the spaceship for hundreds of years, just trying to find somewhere to go that's habitable. And so they finally find a place that they might be able to live on, but the people that are already living on this planet seem hostile or something, or something else strange is going on. So that sounds right up my alley. So I'm very excited and intrigued by this one, and I hope to get to it this year. How many times can I say that? The next one is The Paleontologist by Alexander Dumas. Is that, oh, sorry, that's the kind of Monte Cristo guy. I meant Luc Dumas. And I read his book, History of Fear, last year. And while that book didn't quite work for me, I found parts of it problematic. But I feel like he was a good writer, though. I felt like the writing was good. And so I really wanted to try something else by that author. And I love Jurassic Park, and this gives me total Jurassic Park vibes. And I'm trying not to think of Jurassic Park though when I read this because I don't want to be disappointed because honestly it's probably nothing like Jurassic Park. But it takes place in like a museum where like somebody's like the night guard or maybe a curator or something to do with the museum. But at night, is it a girl that's the I don't remember if the protagonist is a boy or a girl, but either way, him or her is like staying late at night at this museum, but they start to like hear noises or see different things out of place. And so that just sounds really intriguing to me, and I'm excited to read it and see what it's all about. And then the next one is a dystopian, and it's part of a trilogy, but I'm probably only going to read the first one this year, but it's Wool by Hugh Howey. And this one again is super thick, so I'm hoping it reads fast and the pacing's good. But anyways, I haven't seen the show or anything. Again, I want to read the book first. This is kind of like Ship of Fools, where the earth has become toxic or something and the air is toxic or something. And so people live in these silos because they can't go outside because it will kill you. But then like over time people start to not believe that that's really the case, or they're like, what if, the radioactivity or whatever it is that makes it uninhabitable, what if it's gone away now and we can go to the surface or we can go outside? And so they start, disrupting the society or whatever. And so the people are like, okay, well, if you want to go outside so badly, that's going to be your punishment. Go ahead and go outside. And they force them out. So I don't know, it just sounds interesting, and so I'm excited to get to it. Then we have Yellowface by R.F. Kuang. And this one is kind of thriller-esque, but I hear it's more literary fiction. But this is about a writer who has a best friend who's also a writer, and she passes away and she ends up stealing her manuscript and saying that it's hers. And so she rewrites parts of it and then publishes it under her own name. But people are really upset about this because her friend was Asian and she is a white girl. But this book is all about being like Asian American or something. And so people are like outraged, like, do you even have the right to write a book like this, let alone if it's plagiarized or not. So I don't know, it sounds like it's going to have some good discussions in it and some interesting things, and I hear it's really good. So, and again, I'm a sucker for writers and publishing, and anything that has to do with that, I'll eat it up. So I'm excited to read this. And then last, I'm going to try to read Fangirl. So this one's been out for a long time. I think it was like early 2000s or something when it came out, but I don't know, I was never interested, never really heard about it. But lately I've just heard a lot of people talking about it and really enjoying it, and like grew up loving it. And so this is, I don't think it's a romance. It might have some romantic subplots, I'm not sure. But I think it's more of like a slice of life type of book. But what I'm hoping from this one is, I really love Sisterhood of the Traveling Pants. And I don't know if this has to do with like friendships or anything, but I'm hoping that's the vibes though that I get from this book. It's just something that's like fun and wholesome, and this girl is just learning some life lessons and all of that, and that's kind of what I'm hoping from this book. So we'll find out. Okay, so that's all I have for you guys, and I will catch you guys later. See ya.